Only in Ohio would a plane crash into a home.
Girl, if a plane can crash into my neighbor's home,
they want you to die.
He's the only one who survived.
At this point, getting on a plane feels just like rolling dice. I mean, another flight issue is always trending every single week. Passengers are scared. The airlines are quiet. And people are learning to connect the dots themselves. Because honestly, why does flying feel so chaotic and unsafe lately? Well, today, we're talking about the truth that nobody in the airline industry want to talk about. Check this out.
Here's a little fun factual information for you. If you're not a pilot, you might not know this, but in Denver the other day when that guy walked out in front of the aircraft and intently took his life, they were mere seconds away from lifting back on that little joystick that Airbus has and going flying. In fact, they were at a speed where they were only about a second and a half, I'm guessing 2 seconds away from a speed where they have to go flying. They can't not stop. They have to go in the air past a certain speed. So that engine could explode, that engine could fall off. They're still going to go flying and try to troubleshoot it and get back around and land. So that person jumped in front of that plane to end his life, and he almost took out a plane full of people. Frontier puts like 220 people on that plane with the crew. I mean, something like that. Granted, they weren't super heavy. They were probably going to LA, I think, so fuel-wise, they didn't have a lot of fuel. But they're heavy, and they're already a mile high. That airplane would have struggled while one engine's on fire dumping fuel. It would have struggled to climb. I'm just glad they didn't get off the ground because that could have been a disaster, man. It's just crazy.
so a literal plane crashed into a home in my neighborhood yesterday, and I witnessed that. And I want to talk about that, but I'm not gonna talk about that right now. But what I'm thinking about is, like, if that can happen, and that's like was one of the fears in the back of my head, like, is a plane crashing. I mean, me being on the plane, but like it crashing into my neighbor's house is like equivalently bad. My other biggest fear is a sinkhole. Like, girl, if a plane can crash into my neighbor's home, I might experience a sinkhole, and I'm just not ready to experience these things, like, in my lifetime. Like, I cannot believe that happened yesterday. And, like, the thing about it is like, I think about these things. Like, I actually think, like, I be thinking about it. Like, every time I cross this bridge, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if there's a sinkhole right now? I'm never crossing that bridge ever again in my life. Ever. Like, I might not ever cross any bridge. And I'm so serious. Like, I can't.
Only in Ohio would a plane crash into a home. Yep, you heard that right. 2 dead after a small plane crashes into Ohio home, sparking massive inferno. This happened last night. 2 unidentified people on the board passed away. But thankfully, the family that was in their home, living their normal lives, survived. A couple with their 2 children were able to escape. I saw somewhere where the dad was saying, like, he was downstairs working on stuff, trying to finish up their basement, I believe, when he heard a loud bang, went upstairs, grabbed his kids, saw the flames, got everybody out. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families that did not make it, as well as the family for having their house being crashed into by an airplane. If and when I find a GoFundMe link for this couple in their house, I will definitely be posting it, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, they definitely had guardian angels watching over them during this. Just absolutely crazy to see.
This morning, an investigation is underway after this terrifying scene unfolded Thursday in Akron, Ohio.
That thing went up in smoke and then oh, there it goes, boom again.
A small single-engine plane crashing into a home and bursting into flames. Authorities say 2 people on board were killed. Video shows part of the tail from the 1963 Piper Cherokee in the home's driveway.
We arrived to heavy smoke coming out of the house, and we approached it as a house fire.
While it's unclear what exactly caused the plane to go down, officials say miraculously everyone inside the home escaped safely.
So if your plane's about to crash, you'll probably hear the words "brace for impact." Putting your head between your legs will kill you on impact. They do this because when your plane crashes and you survive, you can sue the airline for millions of dollars. They want you to die so that they don't lose money. If you're ever in a plane crash, just sit back and lay down in the seat, and you'll most likely survive.
Breaking news as we are about to witness a total collapse of air travel in the United States. Just overnight, there were 12 FAA offices that were understaffed with air traffic controllers. The Burbank Airport had to cease operations yesterday simply because they didn't have enough air traffic controllers due to the cuts Trump had made because it takes several years to train new air traffic controllers and because of the government shutdown. Now, air traffic controllers are essential workers and must work during a shutdown without pay. Now, they'll get paid once the government reopens, but they still have bills to pay. They still have to pay for things. They still have to eat. I mean, the air traffic controllers, they have one of the most stressful jobs on the planet. And they need to be able to be fed, have sleep, and do their job properly. And if they're not getting paid, they're not going to be able to do that. They are going to have to pay for their mortgage or rent or whatever. Like they have to get paid. And instead, they get these loan sharks offering them loans at high interest rates to pay them during the shutdown. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. The Republicans have created now a dangerous situation.
Do you know the real reason why all these planes are crashing all over the world? There has been literally 99 aviation accidents this year alone. They're literally conditioning people to scare them from traveling. It's exactly like the Truman Show. They literally scared him from traveling so he wouldn't realize what the world was. In the Truman Show, when he goes to the airport to book a ticket, they literally have like a poster saying, "Travelers beware, diseases, wild animals, and street gangs." Literally all fear-mongering so he wouldn't travel. That is exactly what they're doing right now. They're literally conditioning people to not want to get on airplanes and travel. Why are they doing this? It's so that you can get used to being stuck in your 15-minute cities. They say that air transport is the most safest form of transport. Why? This year alone has there been 99 incidents already with 14 fatal crashes.
Because we're finding out that the one person who survived out of the 242 people on board survived in the most unique way. You see, after the plane crash, a video started circulating showcasing a man who was injured walking on the streets, and people kept on saying he's the only survivor. There was no confirmation on that until it was confirmed. But how did he survive when everyone else on board passed? Well, he sat in seat 11A. This seat 11A was located at an emergency exit, and they're calling that seat right now the miracle seat. Now, BBC News did speak to the brother of this gentleman who did survive, and he says here that he has no idea how he survived and escaped the plane to be the only survivor. Keep in mind that he didn't have any serious injuries, just bruising and blood on his face, and was walking. And so people are calling him the Miracle Man, because once again, out of everyone on board, he's the only one who survived. And there were casualties on the ground too. In total, 290 people lost their lives.
Just about once every 3 days, somewhere in the world, a large commercial passenger plane crashes. Most of these are not hugely catastrophic because most of these are fatality-free. Of the 1,070 recorded crashes in the 2010s decade, only 112 proved fatal. Even of these, the vast majority of passengers survive an average fatal crash. In fact, half of all deaths from airline crashes in the previous decade are from just 12 incidents. That's to say, most fatal aircraft accidents are not the kinds you see in movies, the kinds where there are few or no survivors. Most are more minor incidents with just one or two or a few more unlucky victims. The industry, though, does not view them that way. The truth is that people fear airplanes an irrational amount, so in order for air travel to be as commonplace as it is, they require a standard of safety far higher than any other method of transport. Safety and profitability go hand in hand for airlines. Despite this, though, accidents are effectively an inevitability for any of the largest airlines. Statistically, some of these largest airlines are also some of the safest, yet none are 100% safe. Therefore, with enough flying, an accident will happen. All 10 of the world's largest airlines have had fatal accidents in their histories, and so, with this level of inevitability, airlines must have a strictly defined plan for what to do after one of their airplanes crash. So, let's say an accident happens. This will almost certainly have something to do with landing or taking off. The overwhelming majority of accidents involve the runway. However, if an accident is fatal, it is much more likely that it has to do with a loss of control in flight or a controlled crash into terrain. Runway accidents represent more than 90% of accidents, but only account for 25% of fatal accidents. The airline really never is the first responder to an accident. That is typically firefighters and other emergency personnel, but as soon as word of an accident reaches them, the airline will begin to mobilize. Almost every airline out there will have what's called a GO team. This is a group of people, typically working at the airline's headquarters, who train to be part of the crisis response function on top of their ordinary jobs. With larger airlines, this GO team can be comprised of as many as hundreds of individuals filling a huge variety of functions. Larger long-haul airlines might also have smaller teams comprised of people working at their outstations who can more quickly get to crash sites while the main team travels from a headquarters. Now, each airline will have different procedures and protocols, but there are loose standards adopted by all. Typically within 3 to 4 hours of a crash, an airline's GO team will have assembled and taken off from the headquarters airport. Usually, a standby flight crew and aircraft would be used for this dedicated flight. With them, they'd bring a GO kit. Considering accidents can happen quite literally anywhere, this would include all sorts of things like satellite communications equipment, food, water, cooking equipment, personal protective equipment, warm clothing, tents, generators, tools, and more. The team's personnel are typically split up into dealing with 3 main areas: crisis support, humanitarian support, and communications. Each of these would likely be split up into a forward team and rear team. If the crash occurs in a remote location, for example, the forward team, including the most essential members of each of the larger teams, would likely go to the crash site and set up a literal base camp using the equipment in the GO kit. Meanwhile, the rear team might set up in the nearest town with accommodations and facilities. At the crash site, a triage area is set up away and upwind from the aircraft wreckage. This might be done by some of the crisis response GO team members or by emergency personnel. There, individuals would be split up into 3 groups: deceased, injured, and uninjured. The deceased and injured would typically be cared for by firefighters, medics, and other emergency personnel, whereas the airline GO.
Okay, this is getting quite serious now. I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't serious before, but this is getting weird. Right, there's more deaths, more murders, effectively, or potential suicides, as they claim. We've got more people. So, reports are now claiming that as many as 13 American scientists and researchers have either died or gone missing under unusual circumstances. These aren't random individuals. They're said to be connected to NASA, defense research, advanced engineering, and even UFO-related fields. And now additional cases, both in the US and internationally, are being pulled into the same conversation. Now, I'm getting this from News Nation. Joshua Block, one of the central cases being discussed, is Joshua Block, described in reports as a NASA nuclear engineer working in advanced propulsion and high level of research. According to what's being circulated, he's disappeared suddenly and notably without taking essential personal items like his phone or wallet. Sound familiar? That keeps happening. They keep disappearing without their phone and their wallet. This detail is being highlighted because it appears in multiple cases his body was later found following a fiery car crash in July. The case is now reportedly under FBI review, with investigators said to be looking more closely at the circumstances surrounding both his disappearance and the crash itself. UFO researcher David Wilcox, another name now being included is David Wilcox, a UFO researcher and author known for his work in alternative research circles and discussions around disclosure. Reports state that his death was officially ruled as suicide. However, it's now being claimed that his case is under renewed scrutiny and under review as a potential homicide. His inclusion in the list is tied to his involvement in UFO-related topics, which some reports are linking to broader discussions around classified programs and hidden research. Right, this is where it gets a bit weird. Chinese scientists reported missing or killed or dead. This isn't being framed as a US-only issue. Reports are also pointing to Chinese scientists, particularly those working in sensitive or advanced fields, who have died under unclear or sudden circumstances. Zhang Xiaobeng, a physicist and professor at Stanford University, is one of the most commonly referenced cases. He was known for his work in quantum physics and had links to Chinese technology initiatives. His death was officially ruled as suicide, but he is frequently included in discussions involving scientists connected to advanced or strategically important research areas. Ren Wei, another name being circulated is Ren Wei, described as an artificial intelligence scientist linked to advanced research, including defense-related applications. Reports claim he died suddenly, though details around the circumstances remain limited in what's being shared publicly. Again, there's one at the Wuhan lab researcher claim as well that's been mentioned here. But here's another one related back in the US. Father and son plane crash. Richard L. Garwin, another case now being added, involves Richard L. Garwin, a senior physicist with a long history of work in advanced science and national security advisor roles. He was associated with IBM and had advised the US government on defense-related research, including nuclear and strategic technologies. The son, Thomas Garwin, his son, is described in reports as an engineer or technical professional working within scientific or engineering fields. So both were reported killed in a private plane crash. The aircraft is described as a small private plane with both individuals dying on impact. The case is being grouped into the broader narrative due to both individuals being connected to scientific and technical work. Yeah, this is starting to look a bit weird now. Let me get my maths right. So is that 15 we're at now? No, it's more, including the Chinese people as well. That's shit. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm not going to start surmising because I don't want people saying that Daniel Knightley said this, and this is seriously getting quite serious right now. I don't know if this is a message from the gatekeepers to keep our mouths shut, or they've discovered something groundbreaking within advanced propulsion and they're shutting everyone up because they don't want anyone getting out with this new information. Maybe they've all collectively come to the decision that they were going to whistleblow collectively. As we know, there is a reverse engineering program in China. There's a reverse engineering program in Russia. There's a reverse engineering program in the US. Maybe they've collectively come up with something and they're like, no, we got to cut the head off the snake here. We can't let this stuff out. So it's either that or, the fact that there's an astronomer in this list might indicate that something's on its way here and that they don't want that information getting out to the public. Or they're just trying to slow down the pace of research in this area because it's a growing interest, and because there's so many more people involved in this now that want to come forward. We've had congressional hearings and all sorts of things go on. News is now regularly covering this, whether it's Daily Mail, The Telegraph, News Nation, Newsmax, BBC, Sky News, NBC, CNN, Fox News. Like, it's not going away. And what it looks like to me is that I think that they are struggling under the pressure to keep a lid on it, which is maybe why they're silencing a lot of these people potentially. Now, I'm not making that claim. I'm just surmising what's going on, or hypothesizing effectively. I'm not suggesting or making any accusations that this is an inside job by aerospace firms. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, and it could be foreign actors, it could be. But at the moment, we just don't know. But this is escalating quite quickly. And now that we've got journalists doing some digging, I mean, this is where it's coming from. This is all coming from journalism. Journalists are doing their job, and rightfully so, and they're uncovering what looks like it absolutely stinks to the high heaven of foul play. The fact that we have one UFO researcher in here that wasn't even a scientist, that, they're now reviewing the case as a potential homicide versus an initial assumption that it was a suicide in the form of David Wilcock is a little bit concerning. And this guy isn't even a scientist. He was a researcher, but he was very prominent in the space, and he's been around for a very long time. But it is a bit strange. I'm not going to lie, guys. This is getting a bit weird. Anyway, I'm blabbing. Let me know your thoughts. I'll keep you updated with any news that comes forwards. Thank you. You heard it first from DK.
People aren't crazy for feeling nervous for not wanting to fly anymore. Too many incidents are happening too close together for passengers to just ignore it. The real question is, are the airlines being fully honest about what's going on behind the scenes? Do you think air travel is becoming more dangerous? Or are companies hoping that people stop asking questions? Leave your comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to Shana Real Talk TV. Hit the like button. hit the notification bell, and make sure you check out all of my videos. Happy every day.